brutality, I come to report to you that there is an awakening happening in the United States. However, we have to be very careful not to get over jubilant, because the awakening needs direction. And the awakening is in reality a reaction and not a proactive awakening. The awakening is a reaction to the police brutality and the invent of the cellular phone camera. However, what we are seeing is a renewed interest in African-centered themes, black business, black banks, the black economy, and of course, by extension, Mama Africa. So today, we want to get a perspective of not only brothers who were born here in Ghana, but we have 3 brothers here on this panel who have traveled to Ghana from the Western Hemisphere. These 3 brethren have distinguished themselves since coming to Africa, but I'm sure they will tell you it has not been an easy road. We also have Daddy Bosco as a brethren born here, but who has been connected to brethren and sistren outside of Africa and Ghana in particular. So we're going to get both sides of the story of repatriation. So we're going to start by allowing the panelists to introduce themselves, give a little short 5-minute bio on their story of how they got here, and then we're going to dig into repatriation as viewed by Marcus Garvey, as viewed by His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, as viewed by Nkrumah, and of course by these modern day pioneers that sit here on the panel. So put your hands together for our panelists. Me telling you already, you know, me don't want a lazy clapping. Put your hands together for the panelists. No lazy clapping, boy. All right? All right. So we're going to allow the panelists to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to pose some questions. If you have questions, keep them. We're going to have a question and answer period after the conclusion of the moderator questions. So our first panelist, please introduce yourself. Give us a little short bio on your journey.
Greetings, family. My name is Deecee. First of all, I want to give thanks for the invite, because I find myself among distinguished company, and we give thanks for that, you know. We consider ourselves Ghanaian, born in Jamaica, Marcus Garvey country. It's on his shoulders why we stand and sit here today, trying to advance. The repatriation is a must agenda. We've realized that repatriation has been going on before we got here. It's every generation produces its own set of repatriates. Those comrades who muster the courage to find their way back home. We count ourselves among them, and we are pleased about that. You know, we give thanks. Yeah. Currently, I am serving as the interim manager of the Black Star Line Cooperative Credit Union. It's an idea that we are committed to, because we see the whole repatriation experience as being more effective when it is organized on a collective basis. And so we link our individual prosperity and success and effective assimilation back into a culture and a society that we were stolen from, you know what I mean, with a collective approach. Quiet. And it's that from that point of view why we, in Africa, seeking Africa's redemption. Because when the diaspora link up with the comrades here in the continent, that is when Africa will get its redemption. Give thanks.
Memamwajo. Memamwajo. Yes, yeah. Yeah. Ekurole. My name is Dr. Obadile Kambon, research fellow at the Institute of African Studies, University of Ghana at Legon.
Senior, me and Madiano, me can't chi, I'm so the way I'm going to do mine, I'm going to speak chi and then translate it into English. The Adikano, Nasa Yami wa Jimmy said, Ebrebia, you two free a man in a bar, Ghana, and I said, a bibrim, you know, a say, you bought a broco chrono. So I recently had a thought that anytime we leave the other parts of the African world in the Western Hemisphere and come to Africa, what we are doing is that we are robbing Europeans. Now, find Benson. And it said, Bibia, Wobaya Manone, Uma Abrofosika, Wobidibia, Abrofobinesica. Say, Wo, the Woyare Trampoa, Abrofobinesica. Bibia, Wobaya Bia, Abrofobinesica. Now, so say, who two for hawk at the bar hammer, and to say, Omonia, Sasikanabum. So, anything that you do, if you are there in the States or anywhere in the West, Europeans get the money for it. If you want to eat, they are the ones who get enriched. You go to the grocery store. If you even get sick, they are the ones who get enriched. You have to go get medicine. That as long as you are there, Europeans get the money. However, when you come here to Africa, it's like you have robbed them. Sika etebro opipim anka wo de betia abroko a wo hono. Saa sika no na eden eba oman ha. Eba ebibrem. That all of the money that otherwise would have gone to our enemies, it comes here. Now, after you say, before now, that recently we talked about the police officers who are shooting black people. So, and they say, that when you're over there, you know, they talk about the police who are shooting black people, but it's you, through your taxes, who are financing those police. Sa akrabo, aubenyano, sa atuo, aubenyano, sa ashen, omokano, nyina frehi, every yang, every say yang, that if you think about the bullets that they have, who finances it? If you think about the guns that they have, who finances it? If you think about the cars that they drive, who finances it? Yeah, I'll be before. If you say you're too free, and they say you're him. Sika free abrofon sam e de ba ha sere be ya ye betumi atompon sere be ya ye betumi ase abansoro sere be ya ye betumi aye adesua bia bibia ye be bia no ye betumi aye no ha na ye ma abrofon ye sika no biom ni na e be ba oman ha e be mine. So when we come here, all of those things, they come to an end. We stop financing our oppressor, we stop financing our enemy. So as soon as we come here, all of those funds that would have gone there, instead, they come here. So I just want us to think about tying things into the Black Lives Matter, tying things into repatriation, that when we are here, we are starving our enemy, and that needs to be on the forefront of our agenda.
Yes, hi. Greetings. My name is Ras AriEl Yazid. I'm a family man and a businessman. I live here. I do what I do here, and there's not much more to say. So yeah, naturally we know repatriation is the way, it's the order, the obvious choice. It's not really a matter of much consideration. The obvious is, befalling our people on that side now. So we are here.
You're a crewman, What is that reminds me of that song by those young men. One hit. Rasta for walk room. Yeah, walk room. My name is Ahoma Bosco Kanse, and even my children call me Daddy Bosco. We've been charting this chart of repatriation for as far back as I can remember. And I'm currently the president of the Rastafari Council of Ghana. And that's why I think I'm on this panel. Because everybody knows that when you say Rastafari, then you're saying repatriation. Like I said, we've been walking this walk for a long time. I'm hoping at the end of this discussion, we can be able to say that this is the most likely way we can actualize the dreams and aspirations of our forebears. Because when you talk about repatriation, from the first day that African was put on the ship, they started rebelling and wanting to come home. People were jumping into the ocean, trying to swim back home. So repatriation is a serious thing. And I'm hoping that in this generation, we will have the ability to actualize the aspirations of our forebears. A lot of times we say people just talk about repatriation and they don't want to walk the talk. Welcome to the walk. Thank you.
One, two, all right, we're good. Many people know about the Shashamane land grant that was given by His Majesty in 1948 as an attempt to provide a space for people of African descent to return to Ethiopia. What many people don't know is that shortly after His Majesty's coronation in 1930, there was an area by Lake Tana that was set aside specifically for African Americans to repatriate. We've uncovered through various researchers that the State Department was actively discouraging black people from returning to Africa. Over 150 African Americans made the transition to Ethiopia between 1930 and 1935. So repatriation is not a new concept. We can go back even further than that. What I would like to know from our panelists is, and especially from our panelists that have made the journey, what do you think are some of the biggest impediments for black people returning? Feel free to use personal anecdotes in terms of your own experience. What are the biggest challenges to repatriation?
Give thanks, beloved. I think the repatriation experience has multiple challenges. Among the largest ones, I would consider fear and ignorance as very integral to it. Many of us lack the courage, plain and simple. It's probably based in being afraid to leave what everyone born into familiar with, you know, your hometown, your family, your friends, your brethren. Because we meet enough people who have chant repatriation where come before we and them still there in Babylon. They never set foot, not even if you have visit. So if you wonder, you know, as a youth I grew up in Jamaica, we hear repatriation is a must. You know, we see Garvey images on the walls in the ghetto. We see it on the currency, it's on the paper currency, it's on the coin. So, you know, we are encouraged from long time to consider this endeavor. But only the few take it on. Only the few find the courage to deal with it. And I believe that disconnect that is required of it is what a lot of people find hard to overcome. We believe that ignorance also plays a role because we really don't know much about our home. You know, we've been separated for a long time, several generations. And it's a learning lesson. Some of the things we have to learn, some things we have to unlearn. The repatriation experience means different things to different people, I would assume, based on the circumstances in which you embark on it. You know, we all have different education, experience, and environment. So a man coming from the US or Canada or the island might approach it differently. But one of the things we observe along the church is that it's not a new pursuit like the brethren refer to. You know, we come and we meet people actively engaged in it, you know. Some of them never make it still, but most of it there are fight it same way. You know, it's a challenge because some of the things we have to forget about that we are accustomed to. One of the things we realize is that most of us as repatriates have engaged the process using our own industry and resources. And we think that is a very poor approach to really get an effective experience out of it. Personally, we have come to realize that a collective approach is much better. And that is one of the reasons why we devote ourselves to the establishment of the Black Star Line Cooperative Credit Union, because on that level, we are organizing our currency, our money, and in this world economy, even in Africa, you can't get nothing done if you don't have currency in your pocket. So we believe that is a good start to facilitate the repatriation process. Because when we start acting as a collective, I mean, we see the Chinaman coming up, and still eat out and work. The cement when you build in shop is made in China. So he don't come by himself, he come with a collective. You know, he don't come with one Chinaman, it's 5, 6, 7, 8 of them come and them move together, them pool them resources. We see this evidence even in Babylon, when they move together. It's only we find it difficult to move together. But since we come, and we're there now upon the ground, we have to realize that it's only when we move together we can really overcome enough of the challenges that confront us. Because it's a major hurdle, and it's only through unity that all our ancestors have exemplified for us. We all know it, you know, there's nobody there who won't agree that unity is strength. But when we see it in practice, it's weak. I want to know why. You know what I mean? We're there now, we don't have nowhere else to go. There's no other choice, so the only alternative is to unite. And the kind of unity we are talking about is a unity when we have no uniformity in it, because we have to lego some things in order to achieve this union. And we hope say, when we deal with it on the currency level, because everyone has to spend some currency, we can avoid them kind of pitfalls. Give thanks.
Yo, more money me so bad than tea. Set up a big and no sounds from the Sanya. You already know how I do it, so as I did it before, that's how I'll do it. Now, my papa said, I asked from Coca Cry, but he said, Menana Kanswa, Onosona Oka, Nana Marcus Garvey Buono. That my experience is a little different because my great grandfather was part of Marcus Garvey's organization, UNIA. So, that if you look him up, you will see that he was one of the higher ups in the UNIA. Men also, that my mother first came to Ghana in 1972. Now, Obayano, now on Shetta Nim, Ghana Moon Simebri, now Okase, I be reminded of about it to be out of about. So my mother came, she didn't know very much about Ghana, but she saw that there's this chartered flight, so she put her little funds together and she decided to come. She also brought me to Ghana in 1998. Everybody said, no, I will Meduma, I will Asantuma. Because she was learning Akom, which is a traditional spiritual system in Meduma, which is in Asante region. So as I was coming, she was the one who brought me here. At that time, I didn't know any languages. I only understood English. At that point in time, I started to understand that what is in my bloodline, what is in my family is also inside of me. And see, at that time, I started to just trouble all the even children. How do you say this? What's the word for this? How do you say this? Everybody says, because that spirit is in all of us, actually. And see, me pa Ghana say, if I say Impinu, they're called Impinu Niba. So I came back to Ghana from 2000 to 2001. Monsieur there was Ghana Siapon, and I came to the University of Ghana. I want to say Misamba, a bear in Pinune and watching. That's Abra and Kate, my Baba and I mean some copium. So I came in 2008 and I said that I wasn't going back again. After that, you will baby, I will compliment. Senior Mokase, a boy America, as I say, men from and 9 seas as that even in compliments, they say that is considered U.S. soil, so I don't put my foot on that soil. Michelle, intentionally. And see, my umbrella, yeah, adding, if I say, Bibia, say, we were too quiet, and I said, we were baby for everybody, very for you will be a chill ever. After the war, be a piano airport. That anytime you make a move, you have things that are pulling you towards the new place, you have things that are pushing you away from that place. Now, Abraham Obama, in Pinun and watching, Abraham, you talk about Obama, say, obey my opinion, that they were electing Obama at the time that I decided to repatriate. There was a comment on that, you will start Bruno, you bet me a phone at Yabro Bruno. Now, so Abraham, I'm talking about my Obama, say, and yet, Okona say, Obia, and I will be to say, oh, I Jimmy, a Juana, or Danny American. Obia, or say, on pair, Abro, a Juana, you will say, nothing in a. So at the time, everyone, some people who you thought were revolutionary, who you thought were down, when Obama was coming in, we got a chance to see who was really down. Because as soon as he got elected, all the people who were talking all this rah revolution, you saw all of them hopping into the white man's arms and say, yes, we finally got integration. So I realized that the revolution was going to at least be delayed, and I said, I'm out. Until you will be I after the year, will be a chain me back, Sir, if you mind soon, sir, if you mind Moja. Now I won't be moved. I may can't say the same back. And see, I find the Diano and shut and leave her mammy. They are kind of a woman, a say, or whom or her. After the year, after the beer, Libiana said a first in the Kakra. Now, so maybe I will be a piano for her. After the will be a chain me back, and see, I say, so was I young in France and our. So we have things that push us, we have things that pull us here, but if you really have those two things, then the motivation will come. And regardless of anything, say, if you have money, if you don't have money, you will come. Minimum no dollar bill. I know a woman who repatriated, she had nothing but like $100. Every says, "Sa in France, when you move," and the only change say, "Oh, sa I can see the other." Family. Say obeba nti eyiro so kra obeba nti the me person me can say mbon tofa my uncle to remo say obetumi aba bibia e wo ho no enye e atamfo man enye wo man e atamfo man nti the woman say wo bebu a wo tamfo wo ho and I say wo bebu a wo buje ko ha that you have to just understand that is the land of your enemies, and you have to decide, are you going to be there? And if you are going to be there, that means you're going to finance your enemies. Or you will come here and start financing your own people. And see, Masamano, that.
Yes, to the question. My most difficult challenge has been coming with the impression or the understanding that we were welcome. Rawlins, just before I came, Rawlins came to the States at the time he was president. Yeah, he was president and he invited us. He made a blanket invitation to those of us Africans in the diaspora. And he made it seem as though we were really and truly invited. And so I jumped on that bandwagon. When I got here, and since I've been here, I've realized differently. That hindrance, that lack of facilitation, that deceit, because that same rhetoric is being pushed on the various networks. Ghana is still claiming to be the only place that has made a way for Africans to come, when in fact they've only facilitated tourism. So that reality has been my greatest challenge, at least initially. nonetheless, saying that, I will balance it by saying, as much as they have resisted, and it's really legal resistance is really a matter of not trying to open floodgates, which they're afraid will probably overflow. The acceptance that I have received on the ground and the manner in which I am hailed as royalty in my own land balances out that foolishness, because in actual fact, nothing can stop a repatriate from actually making his move, and there's nothing they can do to change the fact that my children born in the land have acquired African citizenship and will rear African children. So here I am. We take it like that.
Say something, man. You have something to say, man. Well, I laugh at a number of reasons, but let me say something from the observer's point of view. One can observe some of the hindrances to repatriation because, like I said earlier, once you say Rastafari, one of the tenets of Rastafari is repatriation. So you sit back and you observe, and when you use disappointment, I'll share some of the disappointments of Ras AriEl. But my disappointment is from the perspective of a Rastaman, of an African who grows up hearing stories. And then what accentuates the stories is the fact that then you hear songs. You hear songs by Spear, you hear songs by the others. And you sit down and you're expecting a floodgate, or at least a certain mass movement. And that is where you have some disappointments. I have a brethren called Wanta, and Wanta died with huge disappointments. Because Ras Wanta, as a young man growing up and citing Rastafari, was one of the first Ghanaians who cited Rastafari. So then you hear repatriation, and then you read Haile Selassie and he said, Africa awaits her creation. And then you read Africa for Africans at home and abroad. And then you remember the efforts of Nat Turner and then Garvey. And then you sit down and you see, oh, so even in these modern times, if those brethren, limited as they were, made such militant and strident efforts, look at what Garvey did. Daring and audacious move. So you're thinking that post-Black Power movement, ones and ones would champion the repatriation move. And even when it becomes a huge, what you call a selling point for many musicians, I can say that Burning Spear virtually built a career on repatriation, true or false. Burning Spear songs, albums are about Africa. And one wonders, oh, what made my big brother Winston Rodney move from Montego Bay and decide to resettle in the US instead of making that easy move to Africa? And then that would help, because you see, one of the challenges is fear of the unknown. The fear of the unknown, Deecee spoke about earlier, is similar to the fear of the unknown that some of African leaders may have, which would be the reason why Ras AriEl would say there's deceit, because they say something instead of passing the right legislations and making sure that, oh, there is a certain law there saying that if anybody from the West who traces his roots and comes to Ghana and wants to resettle in Ghana, this is the procedure. And you go through. The absence of that makes my brother say something like that. But then it's the fear of the unknown, the wondering what will happen. And we need to, at the end of the day, be able to say, this is our roadmap.
we should be able to assess all these challenges. You understand? Like you're saying, these are the issues. And then we should be able to strategize such that over the next few years we can say, we saw the problem, we saw what had been done, we saw what could be done, and this is what we did to move the vehicle forward. Thank you.
Deecee, you want to top up with the Black Star Line? Why? That's why, you know.
Well, I was just meditating on why we are here. You know, we are dealing with repatriation. We are dialogue about repatriation. But for the most part, we really engage in the choir because everyone here who never born here is a repatriate, for the most part. Most of them we know personally. So we all know the struggle, we all know the challenge, and some of the things that we learn along the way, you know, have to do with what the brethren mentioned about the welcome. You know, we have to buy a visa for come. You know, we have to pay to stay. So in a way, we have to buy our way in. All these things, these challenges kind of support the need for us to move as a collective because it defeats the purpose severely when we try to do it on our own. We go by one little plot and build on it all by our own. We go through some struggles and someone bust them toe, someone broke them foot, someone lose a leg, someone run away in frustration. So the one idea that I like leave with and I tonight, this evening as a family, is to examine the collective approach, beloved. See, because we're more powerful when we move as a group. You know what I mean? And we come right from the ground here who welcome me, and all of them no welcome me. Some of them want to see me come back. Some of them glad to see me. Me personally meet one from 1994. You can go to the mother house and sleep anytime, all the way in Kumasi, no problem. You say, what you want to eat, Deecee, when them see you? If them not have the food in the house, them go buy it. Them kind of welcome the we know. So we know there's a place here for us, and we know say the only way Africa can get her redemption is when we in the diaspora who have the expertise, the resources, collaborate with our comrades here on the ground higher and get something done. See, give thanks.
All right, since and I agree with Brother Deecee, a lot of what we're doing here is speaking to the choir. So we're going to ramp up the difficulty questions of the questions that we're asking. I've been coming to Africa since 2005. I've been to Ethiopia, Ghana, and Nigeria, and met repatriates in various places. One of the things that I've noticed with some of the repatriates is a reluctance to learn the local languages. And this brother here is inspiring me in terms of your approach and your mastery of the local language, because I feel that repatriation will not be completed until we learn these indigenous languages and can communicate with our people in their own native tongue. So I'm interested to hear from the panelists, why do you think so many of us who return home, you know, after 10, 20, 30 years, still have not learned any of the native languages?
Yes, beloved, give thanks. Well, you know, them have a saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. No, for we who repatriate, we don't come young. Some of us who come young absorb the language like sponge and water. But some of us like myself who come when we're up in a age, certain kind of way, you know what I mean? It's not easy, not telling a lie. We try and we're trying, but we got devote not only for time and focus on that, brethren and sisters. It's going to be a hard struggle. So, you know, we need to, we can recognize the value of communicating in the local language, you know, and we can see that you gain a certain amount of respect when you communicate in the language too. You know, but there are challenges because the repatriation, because it is done through your own resources. You don't get those resources until you have accomplished a certain amount of hustling or, you know what I mean, liberty in the West. And then you can finance your way home. Because don't really make sense to come with just $100 in your pocket. How far can you go with that? Nobody now go take you up and like a foster parent and look after you. That's like romanticizing repatriation. Life no go like that. Even if you go back to Jamaica as a Jamaican, nobody now go take you up and mind you. So why would you want to come to Africa with only $100 in your pocket? These are the things that, you know, people do it still, but you have to wonder, is it a proper way of going about such a daunting challenge? It's not easy, you know. There are a lot of things you have to figure out, and sometimes just you want to have to deal with it. So if you don't have certain things sorted out, you know, it's like a fool's errand. And that brings us back to the whole concept of unity and organizing our currency, our financial wealth. We can accomplish a lot more when we combine our resources. Off at the top, we can pool our resources and we can acquire land in parcels rather than in plots. That right off of the bat reduce the cost per plot. So, you know, there are benefits in it, numerous benefits. So I want to reiterate, you know, the one message I would like to convey to everyone present, you know, because I know a lot of people have heard about the Black Star Line Cooperative Credit Union. And it is a work in progress. It's not an event. It is a work in progress, and it is unfolding. And since its inception in 2009, you know, we can see it developing and taking shape. It's not really much to brag about, because after 7 years of recruiting, we can only count 543 members. Of that is only like 250 are shareholders. When we look at how Marcus Garvey engaged the process of organizing people, the UNIA was selling shares for $5 a share. In 2016, that's $112, which is like almost 450 CDs. Man was buying a share for 460 CDs. That was the money that was used to capitalize the Black Star Line shipping company, which was done at $500,000. So here's our ancestors buying shares for $5 each, and then could have find money to capitalize a company at $500,000. We are asked for 100 CD. It's not a lot compared, but we can notice the sacrifice that our foreparents were willing to engage, and the sacrifice we here who are willing to engage. So the one point I would like to leave with the audience tonight, you know, is to move on the collective eye. The Black Star Line is an example is a practical example, is an example of theory being put into practice, because a lot of times we talk about repatriation, we talk about unity, but where is the evidence of it? I think the Black Star Line Credit Union is evidence of it. And, you know, it will continue to grow. We know that. Just recently we see people sending money from who never set foot in Africa yet. You know, just because of the brand of the Black Star Line. So I just want to impress on everyone, those who might be sitting on the fence, you know what I mean, to come on board, to join a shipyard, because the nature of it is a cooperative, which means that the authority is vested in the membership. It's not in the executive. Supreme authority is vested in the membership. It's an owner-operated enterprise. There's a useful lesson, I think, to be gained from that approach, because the UNIA, for example, and even Nkrumah is another example where when authorities from the top down, it is easily infiltrated and destabilized. We think that from a bottom-up approach, those type of threats that we are likely to confront will be maybe not neutralized, but less effective. Yeah, man. Give thanks.
Touch on the language question.
Michiamu. Ebra, mewa amanoni, midi PFSA, Tumwachi Hobby. When I was over there on that side, I was about 18 years old. Namitie, or being phobia from of people, Khalid Muhammad. And I was at a talk that Dr. Khalid Muhammad gave. Now, I said, what he was saying, I said, what he's saying is very deep, it's very wise. Now, me beside me, say, now, I didn't think I was there, or can we perform? And I asked myself, well, why does he have to say it in English? Ebraya ka say abrofo nye omo ye ya tamfo ade ntina omo hye so nyina ye ka obrofo kasam. That we say that the Europeans are enemies, that they are oppressors, but we only hear that discourse in European languages. And to me, beside me, say, I so I asked myself, why? I didn't see the intimate say a pet, a bibi fahodie, I want a bibi kasamu. They say, who share a bibi kasasa brea? They say, that if you look at the state of our languages now, we don't use it for very much other than you'll see a church where they're worshiping an imaginary white man. Now, Miss Adeng, Ebra, you say, pepper hodie, the pimpins on the say, ye kasafa, fahodie, I will yen kasamu. That the highest level of it is when we're able to talk about African liberation in African languages. That ye kasafa, fahodie, and also that if we're at least able to talk about African liberation in the European language, okay, that's okay. So you me can't be kasa also ye kasafa fahonyo and also that if we're able to speak in African language, but we're not talking about African liberation, all right, there's something there. Now so say you me I might I was rohana. See, but if we can bring those two together, where we can talk about African liberation in African languages, that's when we've really gotten somewhere. And to say, general now, a shaman said, the same as Abibikafa. And she said, if anyone has a phone here, Mushishe Abibitumi Kasa. Abibitumi Kasa. Look up Abibitumi Kasa. Namunchi Sadina Wahomotroponoso. Abibitumi Kasa said, that when we talk about Abibitumi Kasa, what does it mean? Abibitumi, black power, Kasa language, and Wana Kasa black power language. And it said, ye Kasema and Mudo, Afide, ye Yanawa, Yan Kasum, it's Wuha, ye were chi and Wano. So if you look there, there's a chi for ye were Yoruba Dianoho. We also have the Yoruba one. Ye were Wolof Dianoho. You were Lingala Dianoho, you were Kikongo Diano Bibri, Ninaya Bibikata, Naya Kasafa, Hondia Woya in Kasam. Now, all of those are various languages that we have represented there. Now, Mia Margin is there. Yakasa, Abimai, Yahya, and Kambon, that we talk about Africa needs unity, right? Now, Yakasa, Bifa said, Dipapa, Ubia, I will say, Yena, Yayam Fataho, Yayam Jose, and Cheswa. So there you say, that each one of us should be what we think Africa should be about. That is not only Chi that I speak, but that I also hear Yoruba very well. I'm a teacher of Yoruba. I'm also a teacher of Wolof. I also hear Wolof very well. Now, as I say, Kiswahili pia, I can also speak Kiswahili. In getting over Kikongo, I can also speak Kikongo. Every say, Braya Kase, Abi my inja abrofokasa na kind home. Nipa Bakubia will say, and I say, Kase, I didn't share Brofata. May then mean Kasa and Sancha Brofata. That if we say African people need to wear African clothes, what would I be like to say that and then be wearing European clothes? So, Nakasa, Mayan Shek, the Ayano. So if I say we should wear what we sow, if I say that we should eat what we grow, yeah, and my requirement is because I said, and one my other time. In this time, I'm coming on to Kashi, Kopimura, yes, that if I haven't done those things, then I should close my mouth. I shouldn't say anything on that subject. That I would talk about let's repatriate, but I wouldn't say anything about African languages. Now, so send me a pet casa, but because I like to speak, the amount of coins send to me, customer say, they send me a hoboa answer. They said, me dealing in what I'm saying, that I have to do the work to enable me to have the power to open my mouth. And this I've been to me, and see, some of me want to he and I are in front of him, BDI, it was said to me, they say, yeah, they say, answer. That anything we say Africa should be doing, each one of us as individuals, to me, we should have already done those things. Now, if you're a person who said, yeah, over here, wow, I said, oh, any of you do it. So anyone who says, oh, the things you're talking about, how is it done? They can just look at how you're living your life and say, well, that's the thing that you're saying is a vision for Africa. You see, my author.
The question, why haven't some of us, or myself in particular, taken up the language? To be very honest with you, has a lot to do with laziness. Ghana is quite facilitating to the English language, and I was born with it. I've also taken into consideration that repatriation is a process, and while I might not pick up certain things, while I might not accomplish certain things in this my life, what I start will be continued, and my youth them speak it. So it's done.
I got it.
Daddy Bosco was born on the land, right? Yes, yes. So one of the other things that we look at with repatriation, and you've touched on it here, is the economic aspect. And I think that is something crucial. Right now in the United States, there's a big push to really push economics into Pan-Africanism or into the conscious community. The conscious community is recognizing that for far too long, we've neglected economics. And what you're finding now is a push to invest, a push to put your money in black banks. You're finding more people trying to do business, circulate the black dollar, so forth and so on. And I would like to know, because so many of us hear stories in the West about people coming here and struggling economically. You know, people coming here with that zeal and that vision and maybe not having the status to work within the country. People coming here not knowing how to survive in a hustling economy depending where they're coming from. If they're coming from the United States in particular, maybe from a more traditional European-centric job. So I would like to know from the panelists, in terms of economics, how has the economics been? Daddy Bosco, for you I would like to know what recommendation that you would give to people that are coming in. Everybody can give recommendations, but I'm really interested to know the journey to self-sufficiency that each of you have to take, because obviously we know many brethren who came here, some with a lot of money, ended up spending all of that money and running back to the West. You know, I know brethren like that. We've all heard the story. So please enlighten us on economics. How do we survive that economic challenge, knowing that most of us were indentured servants in the West? Give thanks, beloved. Well, I think the economic challenge is the issue that I've been emphasizing throughout my presentation, at least. I think in the repatriation experience, it is the least attended issue. We come as romanticists without thinking about, okay, where is the income going to come from? Because you have a lot of money in your pocket. It's going down after Delta T a certain time. You have to have an income, and a lot of us do not pay any attention on how we're going to secure that aspect of our repatriation efforts. And so we come with some accumulated resources, enough to secure yourself for a while. You can bring in a container, you can bring in a vehicle, you can buy land, you can build on it. But then after a while, the real struggle sets in, because when the money is done, then what? If you don't have something bubbling on the fire, what you going to eat? So usually that is a rude awakening for some of us. And it's, in a sense, we are to blame for it because we didn't approach the whole idea in a constructive way. And that's why we believe the credit union is a solution to that. Because not only are we building a network of individuals that are pooling their resources together and can make that assimilation economically on an economic basis a little bit more smoother, but we're also building a network of expertise. We have a wide cross-section of people who belong to the credit union. And if we look within that network, we can find people with certain expertise that won't deceive you, won't spoil your money. You know, you can get more bang out of your buck, as they say. You know, you don't have to spend money twice for the same thing. And you don't inherit a problem that you just can't fix it. You have to suffer through it, you know, cracks in your walls and stuff like that. So it all boils down to us organizing ourselves financially. That is one way I think, and I'm sure all of us would agree, that it would help us, especially those who are coming behind us, because like I pointed out before, every generation produces repatriation. And that trend going to be accelerated in the near future given the circumstances and how events unfolding in the West. You know, we've been brutalized for a long time. It never really stopped. It's just true. Now we can film it live and share it instantly. That, you know, this sentiment is developing. But we must also note that when Garvey was doing his work in 1914, 1918, 1922, you know, you had serious race riots going on at the time. So it's only when our backs against the wall you see we start moving up. I know because of Facebook and social media, we feel like we're backs against the wall. So people looking elsewhere and them invariably have to go looking at Africa because there's a lot of signs pointing to the decay in the West that's going to reach. It's already reaching the small man, but it's going to reach him worse. Even the money man are going to flee. You have enough people right now who have sacrificed them US passport and go to other places, you know, and I don't see any good coming in the future for us. So, like I keep saying, beloved, the Black Star Line Credit Union is one way we can enhance our re-entry, you know, our assimilation into Africa as a collective, you know, and we have to marry our individual success to our collective success, because then we're better off in the long run. Black Star Line United, all the way. Bless you.
You say Okano, as he said, you know, it's true. Minso Mabedum Kono, the Miss that I've also joined and I put some funds into the Black Star Line Credit Union. Now, me buy no, me in Shisha and Sana me buy. So as I was coming, I had made preparations before I came. Now there is something called the internet. And to make us say, I will feed in 10 times. And one sika. So what I decided to do is to teach African languages using the internet in order to make ends meet. And also now, with the chia, so your point I say, Miss Mirie Abudin Chatwa, I honor. And that's also the funds that I was able to use in order to pay for the university to complete my PhD. And see, imagine they say, BBI will be I said, we'll be 2 amount. They said, would be no answer. That whatever move you're going to make, you should think about it before. And see, I didn't want to share on Sana me buy because I had a plan before I came. And say, once so, BBI will be my and Maha said, oh, me buy any BBI before you, before I can't see before you. They say, one young share, Sana Mayan, maybe I feel in some time. Maybe I will be at my house, BBI will be at the say, would be no answer. That whatever you're going to do, you should just have some type of plan to say I'm going to use the internet, or I'm going to do something here, whatever it is, you have to have some type of plan. I will, I'm on a video and so Mesa war, Ibia from a BBCK Susu. That we have a Susu collective called a BBCK. And also now, Yedeboa, a BBCK Distriambia. And that's also what we use in order to finance a BBCK school. This is also a school that we are doing in order to teach every subject in Chi. And yes, that this is a school that we teach all the subjects, including science, including mathematics, history, all of them in Chi. So, as the South Africa, I will feed in sometimes, so I'll be between me. Emwana, the boy and Brower, and see, said here, Deecee Kano, a woman, they say, a kind of home, set up by our Sassicano, Yenny Papa, a united Ghana, in the piano, and in the park. You say, who brought your family a piano? Until we are now in the piano, side in the fire one. That they say, if you climb a good tree, we help push you upwards. So, this collectivity is what we use in order to finance the school that's teaching all these subjects. And also, that in September on the 5th is when it's going to start. Teacher no a war mamanity say uka say wo mahapra they say wo two obutum na uka say omo adimpa mo ba kana no and after ba bi ma no e be that even those who refuse to repatriate or don't repatriate, that one thing that they can do is to support the initiatives that we're doing here on the ground.
To the economic agenda, unlike the language, if you don't learn it, you will suffer. So on that front, we all must adjust to the new paradigm. It's a completely different paradigm in Ghana. It's a completely different set of rules. And clearly, as anyone who's been here for any set of time, we are aware. My only advice is adjustment. None of us are really taught the ins and outs of business operations, but we have to learn. We have to apply ourselves and learn, because it's the only way that we as a people, as families, individuals, and then as a people collective, will gain any real respect anywhere in the world. And I think it's paramount, and as someone else mentioned, it hasn't been much addressed, whether in any of our movements, whether it is Ras AriEl or Black Lives Matter or anything. It's now being addressed, but it's something that we need to deal with on a real level. And I strongly suggest, that adjust to the paradigm, because it's essential.
What I'll say is share a few observations, and one of the things is skills. Sometimes it's the absence of skills that affects people's ability to survive here. If you watch all these reality shows, they talk about survival skills. Deecee started talking about brethren who come with wealth. Over the past 40 years, I've seen brethren come with real money, not small money, big money. And all that money is ended. So, Dr. Badele also spoke about a plan. It's important you have a plan. So you have your skills, you can teach, you can engage in agriculture, you can be an entrepreneur, but come to the table with a plan. Because the point is, Africa awaits its creators and creation. And one of the fears of the continental African, and that's one of the fears they used to fund anti-Garveyism back in the day. They used to tell the continental Africans that Garvey is coming to take over Africa. But we need to make the continental African know that we're coming to the table prepared to build our motherland. Come with your skills. Yes, you can come with money, come with a plan, and then integrate. Because one of the things Garvey also said is that when the diasporans come, they need to integrate with the continental Africans. One of the challenges of the past 4 decades that I've seen is our inability to integrate, to assimilate. So some of the brethren who've come and they've been able to marry, somebody will tell you that's one of the easiest forms of integration. But we need to take practical steps. And Brother AriEl was talking about the fact that in our various groupings, our various collectives, it's time we start sitting around the table and saying, this is how we will prosecute the agenda of repatriation. No man is an island. No man stands alone. It's a unity is strength. Nkrumah will tell you that there are various vehicles for unity, but one of the most salient forms is the economic vehicle, because economy ties everybody. It is the one single language that everybody speaks. So we can aggregate around the Black Star Line cooperative credit union model and then build with it. Like Deecee said, it's work in progress. How can we all bring our skills and knowledge to bear into transforming such an initiative into something that succeeding generations of Africans will be proud of? Give thanks.
Yeah.
Engage, huh? Give me.
My apologies. My partner, Bingi Sean, who is the executive director of Habesha, is not well, so I'm wearing multiple hats. So you see me running around doing multiple things. But this is a very interesting conversation. We're going to get ready to get into the question and answer portion. So if you have a question, I would ask, please line up by the stage here. We're going to go through a few more questions. We'll ask the panelists to answer as appropriate, but we definitely would like some audience participation. So if you have a question, please, or a contribution, please come to the stage so we can facilitate a lively dialogue. The next thing I would like to know is intra-Africa communication. One of the things that we found is that the idea of a united Africa does not seem to be as powerful when you're moving around on the continent as within the Pan-African community outside of the continent. As Pan-Africanists, obviously because of your life journey, what do you think that you can do on the ground here to help to strengthen that vision of a united Africa? And also, do you all have plans for travel outside of Ghana to explore, or is Ghana your final destination on your return journey home?
Yes, beloved, give thanks once again. We have become aware of our bloodline through oral accounts. So, we know we have a connection to Ghana in particular, as that piece of real estate where we were forcibly removed from. We know that our great-grandmother was an Ashanti slave in Jamaica. So we here to claim our birthright through our great-grandmother. And that's why we're here. We feel satisfied. We don't need to go anywhere else in Africa, because we feel like we're there at home. In terms of the unity, African unity, it's a daunting, it's a very challenging achievement to try to accomplish. You know, you see people like Nkrumah, like His Majesty, set the tone. But over the years, it seems as if, you know, we have lost our way. I believe we as the brave ones who have manifested that repatriation experience have to put that unity in place. And I believe when we organize it on a level where we are an economic clout, we could influence political decisions. We see other people do it. I don't think we should be afraid to purchase influence if we have to. And the only way we can do that is if we have the money. We see people do it elsewhere and very effective about it. They lobby governments. You know, they peddle influence. I believe, you know, some people might not agree with it, but I think it's an option that, you know, is worthy of our consideration. Because we do believe that by any means necessary, we're supposed to search for this unity and forge it, make it happen, because it's an example that stalwarts in our history has made for us. So we have to find a way to do it. If we can get it done on a local basis, you know, them say you must think global but act local. We have to start acting on that local level. You know, we have to perform that unity, put it into place among ourselves, among our community. Now the work of the credit union has revealed certain challenges to us. As repatriates, you know, we're very dispersed. And to be able to achieve that unity, it becomes even more difficult because you have some man by the ocean, you have some people in the mountains, you have some people in the suburbs, and everybody moving through, tending to their own business. It's very difficult to organize on that level. But the rewards, I believe, is worth the sacrifice that we have to make to come together. So we have to show African leadership that we can do it, and by example, I believe the leadership will emulate us by performing or putting that unity into place. Give thanks.
You, besides, you asked a good question. But I can say, yeah, here in Kambon, when we say we need unity, the Deecee, it was say beside was say in Kambon Bank, we have to ask ourselves what kind of unity. I bet as a senior, I brought for the I was Berlin, and that when we're asking you, are we asking about these fragments that Europeans carved up in Berlin? Said that do we leave those fragments as they are and then just unite on the basis of those fragments? And I say, I will hold and sana brofobano. We or did you say, ono dear or I bring him in Penasam, ono soy in Cranium in Penasam, ono soy a Pantino CCC? Or do we look at the pre-colonial fragments that were already there, where this one says, oh, that's an airway, so I don't like them, or this one says that's a fancy, so I don't like them? Do we operate on the pre-colonial fragments in order? Say, Misha, Nipati will hard to say, Sehanta joke, Theophilo Benga, Aikayama, that if I look at certain scholars like Sheikh Anta Joke, Theophilo Benga, Aikayama, Omodia Moshe, Bibi to say Kemet, that they looked at Kemet, what was called ancient Egypt, and they said, and no, yeah, idea, with me, Anyang Kaboma, Eya Obiadia. They were looking at that because that is something that we could unite around, that we all come from, that belongs to all of us. When you or something else, because I said, oh, Kemet a medium one. And I said, Yoruba, you know, because I Kemet a medium one. And I said, Kambon, or because I Kemet a idea, you bet me, I can't wobble. A Tuminam and also not I can't wobble. This is something that we can look at as something collective that we can unite around. Until my business says, Mia semifa say, and no idea and Kabibwa. Said there, Obia or Chere Casa, or Fian Casa. If I say, Sa Kemet Casa, Mayan Pejano, Nayufa, and also Nayan Casa, Mayan Kaya Home, Mayan share. At the back, I phrase, Berlin in Shamoni said, a try and say, Omoya Campo. That when we look at something like Kemet or ancient Egypt, it's something that we can unite around that's not based on the Berlin Conference borders, that's not based on the pre-colonial fragments, and that we can say, look, we all have a common right to it. Therefore, let's, as a linguist, someone who learns a language and teaches a language, let's use this as a language, as a civilization that we can all unite around. But if I look at the Berlin Conference, there's a major lesson in that. That at that time they were shooting cannons at each other. We now can say, media. That at that time they were at each other's throats saying that this African land is mine, no, this African land is mine. Now so Usha, Umukase, Munchain, Sa Chimamincha, and Wobino and Tamino. My family if you say, Sa Abubonaya, Campo. To my kind home said, there is me a con at Tia before. That there's a very instructive lesson in the Berlin Conference because even though they were at each other's throats, killing each other over who is going to steal this land from these Africans, that they decided that they have something in common and that the problems that they have amongst each other are never going to be more than the problems they have with all of us as African people. So I think there's a lesson in there for us. And see, my uncle said, I did Papa and Kambon, they said, he and I were Tampo, I will Yazid. That is something that can be a motivating factor for unity. Look, we have a common enemy. So on the basis of this common enemy, let's make a similar decision that the problems that we have amongst each other. I know Asantes don't like Airways, Airways don't like Asantes. Northerners, people, there are these grudges that go back hundreds of years. But if we can come together and say, you know what? The problems that exist amongst each other, if we keep doing it, as I said, Sa and Sanifa, now I can say, oh, Mimbo will need Hobai. Mimbo Mankaza will need Hobai. It's like the right hand saying, I'm not going to fight for the faith. And just said, Menana, I say, there'll be media, Mimbo Bitirino. It's like the leg saying, I'm not going to help this shoulder. Now, you are but at the same time, we have an enemy who's saying, I'm going to cut the throat. Say, if that happens, we've all died. And he said, if me, who be beside, and also now, this Bambo, that common defense and common aim is something that we can unite around.
Well said, beloved. Well said.
In my observation, Peter Tosh said legalize it, and now most of the Western world has accepted the benefits in the herb. Bob Marley said Africa Unite, and now the African Union has put out the first African passport, which should be in circulation or available to the average African in among 2020. So what you are saying or what you asked regarding how we see it on the land, in actual fact, we see it manifested. In actual fact, we see our word sound taking effect. So it's really just about following through. There are those in political arenas that actually deal with the mic closer to the there are those in political arenas that actually deal with the logistics of it. Those of us on the ground, we deal with the chanting, with the manifestation through word, sound, and power. But yes, indeed, it's actually happening.
All I'll say is African unity is now, and we will definitely live to see African unity in our time. You know why? Because like the brethren said, the African passport is a reality. Right now in West Africa, there's free movement of goods and persons. I know the regional blocks across the African continent, and let's just keep playing our part. Doc said, let's be part of the change we want to see. I'm firmly convinced that we will see African unity in our lifetime.
We want to get some questions, so please, if you have a question?
I have a contribution to make.
Okay. Before we get into contributions, we want to make a line. Everybody who has a question or a contribution, please come up. We're getting ready to conclude this panel. But I have another question that came up to me listening to your responses. And that is, Africa, traditionally have based on your tribe, your group. We in the West, who are exiled, oftentimes do not have that tribal identity. We cannot say we are Ashanti, we're Ewe. We cannot say we are Yoruba. And we come into a space where that identity is so prominent. And it's the same in East Africa, it's the same in West Africa, it's the same in South Africa. How do repatriates navigate? And I wish the brothers and sisters from Fianco were here. I know they wanted to comment. Unfortunately, they left because I think it's relevant to what we're asking here now. But how do we, as Africans returning without a tribe, fit into a landscape that is so tribal? How do we transcend tribal affiliation?
And if you have a personal anecdote, please feel free to.
Give thanks, beloved. Well, the sister who spoke just before the panel commenced was sharing the developments of Fianca with us. Fianca was established as a stool and skin by the National House of Chiefs in 1994 as a way to atone for the suffering that Africans endured during the transatlantic slave trade. It is designated as an ethnic group. What the House of Chiefs is saying to us is that all diasporans can assimilate on a traditional basis, on a customer basis, under the Fianca, Black Star Line on my mind, under the Fianca stool and skin. I think that is a very serious development, and that's one of the reasons I'm also secretary to the Fianca Greater Accra region, because we're trying to organize ourselves to recover the stool. It was given to us in the 90s, but because of malfeasance and deception, it developed some corruption, and a stain has been left on it. But the stain is not indelible. It can be removed, and that's what our work is trying to accomplish. Once we get the National House of Chiefs to recognize us as a legitimate stool, I think that would pave the way for us to seek redress from the government, because in Ghana the democracy is structured after the customary law and the parliamentary law. They don't really mix, so the chieftains say do their own thing and then don't get involved in governance. Government do their own thing and then don't really get involved in chieftaincy affairs. So we believe that with the formal recognition from the House of Chiefs, we would be better positioned to petition the government to grant us our rights as citizens in Ghana. And that's one of the reasons why we see Fianca as a very important institution to develop. And we urge everyone to learn more about Fianca and look how we can move it forward. Right now, the next stage in our development is choosing a Fianca Henny, which is a chief, and a queen mother. Once that is done, along with the adoption of a constitution that we did in January, we want to approach the House of Chiefs and petition them to give us custody of the stool so that we ourselves can administer it. This is not a simple endeavor, because we're very disorganized, we're very fragmented. What we really have to do is come together and form a government that we can allocate these resources, because as an officially recognized stool, land will be granted to the stool, and we have to administer it. We can't administer it the way we are structured now. We need an organized body to take care of these resources and deal with it properly. So I want to urge everyone to look into, learn more about Fianca and find ways that you can become a part of it and move the process forward. Give thanks.
Ebra misia kigongo kasa. Ne chere fona o katire ya ye wa manu ne o kasa yin yenkwana e ya abibifo. O kasa ye abibifo chem. O pri Congo o kasa ye abibifo chem. that as I started to learn the Kikongo language from Congo, our teacher who was from the Congo was telling us Africans in the diaspora that we were more African than him. And so we asked him, what do you mean by that? Now, I said, Nankasa on who said, Oyo Bibini, Kane. Obaka said, Made me free in Sundi. And son of Bakase, Mukongo. And son of Bakase, Ofri Congo. And son of Bakase, Ofri Abima and Finfini. And son of Bakase, Ofri Abimai. And son of Bakase, Owo Abibiase. So he said that in terms of identity, he first identifies as Nsundi, which is a subgroup of the Bakongo. Then from there, he would see himself as a Congo person. And then from there, he would see he's from the nation of the Congo. Before he would even see himself as being Central African, before he would even see himself as being connected to all of Africa, before he would see himself as being connected to the African world. Now, if I said, now, so more money, more say more of you before, but you who are from abroad, you see yourselves as Africans first. And so he said, who are Bibini awo Cuba, or your Bibini. So you see an African in Cuba, you see him as an African. Who are Bibini awo Brazil, who say, oh, Bibini. Who are Bibini awo Australia, awo Betia, who say, oh, Bibini. That if you see an African in Brazil or Australia or anywhere, you see that this is an African. And so you walk in Kuana, Woya, or Bibini Prague, Woya, or Bibini Tammy. So he said, you are the one who is really an African in the sense of what an African is, because you see that view. Now, Mama about some Afra. So let me give you a little bit of history. You were, if I say, in fear, in Pim9, near Ahawachi, if you look at about 4,800 years ago, that there was a general named Weni. Now, Sabrano of Kemet, that he was from Kemet. Now, so Omuwa Botai, but they had a common objective. And see, Omo Nubia for Etirapan. So they were looking for other Nubians to join their cause. And see, Omo Wawat Nubia for. Omo Sejer Nubia for. Omo Jet Nubia for. Omo Kaal Nubia for. In the Kemet, Serebea, Yabetmi, Akwan, Tia, Asia for. So at that time, what they decided to do was come together, the Africans from northern and southern Kemet, upper and lower Kemet, south being upper. They brought together the Kaal Nubians, the Wawat Nubians, the Jet Nubians, the Sejer Nubians, all these different types of Africans coming together under one banner to fight our Eurasian enemy. And no, before that was the very first Pan-Africanism in the entire world that we can point to. If you say, Kemet, that the meaning of this Kemet that I'm talking about in Egypt, the indigenous name was Kemet, it means land of black people. So watch that here. It means the land of black people. And see, say a chest high in Cheswana. You who say, in Pitiatia, no, you who say, before you, and see, Yene before Popon and Kambon. That at that time we saw ourselves as black people, African people, so we collected other black people together to fight against common enemies. Now, the woman can say, but if you look over time, that collectivity became just yet one more fragment. And the idea came for but if you look later on in the history, the Africans in Kemet started fighting against the Africans in Nubia. So the collective became just another fragment. And also, before, if you look abroad, we are the ones who are Africans in that broad sense of Africans. And see, and also I am possible, and I say it's simple. So we can look at that as a benefit, or we can look at that as a curse, a detriment. You understand? We have this as a collective. Minde for wom, and crime for wom, Yoruba for wom, Senegal for Obiawo. That is a collective. Every single type of African you can find them in the diaspora is a collective. Now, so I say, yes, we find no say, I am passport, and I say, yes, we find say, and no, I am born in my standard, so we can learn from the past and either say, this is the first collective we've had like this ever since Kemet, and see that as a benefit, or we can turn ourselves into just one more fragment. Now, I feel I'll be before free. I'm on it. You better come here. I'll be before you warm water. Now, I feel you better see. Now, I feel that we can become just another fragment in a whole sea of fragments. And now, diasporan Africans now fight against continental Africa. We can want that here. It's in my so let me close this. My dream is that Elisa you done it sinifo for it. He said, baby, I was this idea. I am fast walk. Sa adreno, my infant, sa adreno, my abuse free ha. Say, yes, sini. That wisdom that we've learned by force, that we can imbue that African consciousness to continental Africans here as well. That we're not fragment. We are one. Say, who's side your mouth? And we said, before you am. And if we can see that, I think things will go well for us.
Essentially, I concur. I think tribalism matter is pretty much none of our business. We come ignorant of it, and we should more or less stay out of it. However, we are associated as a tribe of sorts. They do see us. We are seen as diasporans, and thus sectioned off. And as the man said, we could become another sect if we so choose. However, it's in our better interest to recognize our common interests and forward on that platform.
I'm going to call up the Virgin who had a comment to make. We're getting ready to wrap up the panel now. So I'm going to call the Virgin to make a final statement. Then we're going to give our panelists a chance to give some final closing remarks. This has been an extraordinary day. This is the 2016 Black Star Fest. Habisha presents. And it's been an educational day. We want to thank all of you who have taken time out from your schedule to come and join us today in this learning from the music industry to repatriation. We had some of our artists come and entertain us. And we're getting ready to wrap up the first annual Habisha Black Star Fest. You have a comment?
Yes, sir. My name is Mufia Sanse. My question goes to the panel, precisely Dr. Kambon, but others can take it too. Some scholars have argued that it is out of cowardice for black people to say we must repatriate out of America. Because slavery, the purpose of slavery is to get black people to build America. And today, America we have today is built by black people. They own a part of America. So to say, let's repatriate and go back to Africa, is like leaving all our sweat behind. So I would like to hear the panel's view on that. Thank you.
Who wants to tackle that? We'll give it to the doctor.
What besides some Kobe, you asked a good question. Martin is said, the first America my airport. Maybe I need to make Canada. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that out loud, but that is my thought. And she said, your person starting a bemoir, bemubra, before bois, that if that is one of our objectives, it's not going to happen while we're helping it to stay afloat. And she saw or how you know a common, you see, Diane, you find that let's look at what we built, let's look at it as a prison. And she said, Jenny sees my income, so we could say, we are the ones who built this prison, let's stay inside of it. And I say, and yet, or we can say this prison that we built is something that's not good. Now, say a person is Grigua, in Gringu, Ebra, Devia, Yeshenokina, that if we're saying that this prison that we built is something that should fall, it's not going to fall when every day we are reinforcing it. That we put our sweat, our blood, our tears, everything into it in order to keep it standing. Ebraya ka say Sadiano ne fire by a museo, a yabone, a how that if we look at this thing that was founded in evil, in badness, in wickedness, in bloodshed, in slaughter, and yet that is something that is not good. And see, and then break, yet me can say, Sade Bonono, Manin Siho, Nafi, Mayam Bois, Serba, and Betina Siho, as a ball. So we can decide either let's let it stand and make it stand forever, or Yabisna can say, Mayan Chi and home field, yet at the Bakwa, say a hair, a bra, a broken the fire no moon. If you look at the time that the Europeans were enslaving us, and yet Omwana was me, yes, Ebra will say almost share of mindful. If you look at the time that they were colonizing us, and yet Omukwana was me, yes, Omuma Abufoko, that they had other Africans assisting them. But seeing that Yang Abufone that up to this very day it is we Africans who assist them. Now say I know me say omo the Yusini Fofro a Mamian son, Amoya before Amubuama America man I call home that they are gonna release a new movie about 3 African sisters mathematicians who helped America go into space. Right? If he Yentina almost me yes, now if you in Kwasum Brem, so ever from enslavement, they be seeing that right till today. I said this out, I will say you be saying when I said Jabang, now you better say yen wow mobile. That our objective has to be at what point in time do we say we are not going to help them anymore? Sada I better say yen wow mobile. That the day that we decide we're not going to help them anymore, Sada na Omanu that is the day that that nation will fall. And see, they see that you will Abibitumi Casa, I feel you on Facebook. Right now we have a Abibitumi Casa, we also have Facebook. Abibifone ya Buama, Facebook nya, you name and put to any Koswa. Everybody said, you will say ya Buabra, you may be. Right now we are the ones who put Facebook where it is. Because what we see is, if we help Europeans, we get something from it. You share in Kwasum Brana, you can say, ya Buasa, Brofwa, you be that during the time of enslavement, we said, oh, if we help the Europeans, we get something from it. It's the exact same thing. And see, my dream said, say, your person BB says, and Roma will say, that if we're saying that we want something to change, that is the thing that has to change. That on the day that we say we're going to stop helping Europeans, that's the day that justice will return to the earth. Now your time for own review, that's the day that our enemies will also fall.
Before we get to your question, we have a representative from Food Sovereignty Ghana who's going to block us out. Then we're going to have to seal up very quickly. We're going to give you a few moments to ask your questions. We'll have one panelist to respond. Then we have to seal up because of the low light. We cannot get the recording. So put your hands together. This is a representative from Food Sovereignty Ghana.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Time is fast spent, so the message is very short. We are here gathered together in a very serene garden. The most beautiful, serene environment. I hope you all agree.
Yeah.
This is only possible when you have a respect for nature and you nurture nature so that it can be sustained. Our ancestors lived in a sustainable way with the earth. Right now, the way the agricultural system wants to go, there's going to be no sustainability for the earth. Soon there will be nothing like earthworms, you'll see no frogs, you'll see no bees. We have to be aware about our food that we eat and the seeds that are coming into the country. So it is no longer just anything to keep talking about building ourselves as a family. We must start to grow our own food. It's a very, very serious thing. Soon the food that will be coming and has already come is full of sickness. And I'm sure you can all attest. So you pass through the city into the town and there's a lot of sickness because People are not getting nourishment from the food that our ancestors ate. We're not eating alefu, we're not eating dandelion anymore. People don't know how to eat with dawa dawa instead of Maggi and all that. But the message from Food Sovereignty Ghana is reject GMO. Hold your parliamentarians responsible for asking the question why we should be accepting seeds in this country that will be manipulated by corporations, where we'll have to buy seeds every season. Our ancestors used to share seeds. It has been given to generations, free from nature. So food must not be in the hand of corporations. So the message from us is short. Hold your leaders' responsibility, the misleaders, the parliamentarians. Ask them why they are pushing an agenda that you do not represent, that you want an organic future for your children. So visit www.foodsovereigntyghana.org, foodsovereigntyghana.org, all one letter, all one word, and support us. This is a very noble cause. We took several entities to the High Court, and the appeal was dismissed. The case was dismissed, but we are going to appeal. And we're standing on very solid ground because this is the preservation of nature as we are enjoying here. And if we were to chemicalize all the agriculture and keep spraying this place, you wouldn't come to see these trees. So the short message is that keep the environment organic, support Food Sovereignty Ghana, know your rights, and hold your parliamentarians responsible for the decisions that they are making. Don't let them pass the Plant Breeders Bill. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my give thanks. Yeah. My question is, I would like to know how they repatriate to Africa. Is it that you find out your ancestors' bloodline or whatever? Because someone was saying that he knows that maybe the Jamaicans are coming from the Ashanti. Because I met one brethren also, he said they are coming from the Bosco region. So how do you come here? Because right now I belong to the 12th tribe of Israel. We preach repatriation, and some of our people come here through the 12th tribe of Israel. So how do you come here? And give thanks that we have the Ras AriEl Council, and we also have the Black Star Line Cooperative Credit Union. So if there should be some kind of official linkage between an organization, an organized organization here in Africa, because you should come through that, then there should be something like a business plan. Because, whilst we are talking about repatriation, we're also talking about reparation. So whatever, it will be very painful that you acquire so much wealth over there and come to Africa and come and squander everything. There should be a business plan. If we've been able to organize the Black Star Line, there should be various types of business plans so that when we come down, there should be some kind of, you can't say, I come from the Ashanti, I come from the Bota, I come from, that you try to give yourself, because some people don't even know where they're coming from. So I don't know if it's a question or it's an additional suggestion. Give thanks.
We're going to take that as a comment, and we're going to ask the panelists to say a closing word as the sun sets in here in the beautiful Aburi Botanical Gardens in Ghana, West Africa. It's been a beautiful day, and we're going to ask this esteemed panel to just close us out with a brief remark.
Yes, beloved, give thanks. I would like to close by saying repatriation is a form of self-determination, and in so doing, we need to do it collectively. Black Star Line, Credit Union, all the way.
Yo, meka abibi to me, I'm a person who kasa abibi to me, abibi to me, abibi to me. Black power language. Maybe a bit yes. And for man, it will be short. We will be binia, we will be bini, we will be binia, we will be bini. If you are black, you are African, and if you are African, you are black.
I would just like to say give thanks for the organization and the efforts put forward and the time spent.
It's all right, thank everybody, and let's all be part of the action. Let's walk the talk. If we, this generation, make a meaningful contribution to repatriation, the next generation will have it much easier. Thank you.
Give the panelists a round of applause. Me tell you already, you know about the pretty clapping. Give them a round of applause. Yes. We're not finished. We're going to have a film screening of the Black Tour Roots Habisha award-winning documentary. This documentary has won awards around the world. It was featured on PBS, CNN, all of the